Okay, so I already have discussed the concept of pole zero in terms of simple circuits and what that pole and zero has the effect on the responses of a circuit, and then have introduced the amplifier slowly, the MOSFET amplifier, and also have given some of the information about how do we actually split an impedance in both input and output side, which is Miller's theorem. So today we will see the frequency response of an amplifier for high frequency zone. And this is again, we will start with the circuit which is shown here, wherein these capacitances can be treated as short circuit because they are chosen in that way, so that for AC signal analysis, we can at least treat them as short circuit. And if you look at before I start, I would like to give you some idea about different terminologies that I'm going to use. For example, one terminology is DC gain, and if you look at the gain versus frequency response, which is typically like this, which I have shown in my previous slides, and we call this part a mid-band frequency range, or this also defines the bandwidth of the circuit. However, this part, whatever is the gain during this mid-band frequency, we call it a DC gain, okay, and term it as AV0, or somebody may term it as AV-0. It is important to notice that DC gain doesn't mean this is the gain for the DC signal. However, in op-amps you will find that the frequency response is something like this, wherein the gain starts from zero frequency. This is basically your gain for a DC signal, right? In this case, we just term this particular range as DC gain. Okay. Now, if we convert this particular circuit into a equivalent circuit, it will look like this. So it is important to note another thing. In this DC gain, what we do, we remove the capacitors associated with that, especially associated with the MOSFET. Anyways, we will remove these capacitances or these capacitors, because we consider for AC these will act as a short circuit, but there are capacitance inside the MOSFET as well. So for DC part of this, we remove the effect of those capacitors as well. Now in the equivalent circuit, you will find that we already have considered, you can consider a resistance here, Rs dash, which appears in here as Rs dash. Then you have Rg and Cgs, the capacitance. This is not these one, okay? This is capacitances of the MOSFET. So you have Cgs, then you have from gate to drain, you have CGD. The current source is GMVGS. R0 is output resistance. RD is the resistance that we use in the drain side. Okay, so this will come in the output side. Why? Because in AC analysis, you treat this as ground. So this RD is basically between ground and drain. So you will get a resistance in the output side. And RL is your load resistance. Right? So your total load in the output side is R0 parallel RD parallel RL. So when you start calculating the DC gain, as I have said, what you do, you remove all the capacitors, these capacitors. There is another capacitors called CDB, which is between drain and bulk. We did not consider that capacitance over here. Probably in the last or in the later section of this session we will consider. But if you convert this equivalent circuit after removing, if you convert it to a circuit after removing all the capacitors, it will look like this one. Okay, I removed all the capacitance, and this is now V in is equal to Rs dash Rg. This is your Rg value. GMVH is VGS is your current source. Then you have output resistance Rd and RL. So I already have said RL dash, which is the total load in the output side. It's R0 parallel RD, parallel RL. Okay. Now let us calculate the gain associated with that. That is what we want. Now your VGS value will be, these two are in series, these two resistances are series, and a VGS is appearing across RG. So it is simple voltage divider, RG divided by RG plus RS dash into Vin. Similarly, your V output will be, this is your current, and this current is flowing through this output circuit, and the equivalent resistance of that is RL dash, which I already have shown, is equal to R0 parallel RD parallel RL. So you have V0 is equal to minus VGS GM into RL dash. Now what is the V0 by VGS by V0 value? This will be your AV dash, right? So from there you can calculate, after replacing this VGS value over here, you can calculate also V0 by Vin. Okay, or from this you can calculate the V0 by VGS. So this one will be, there is a small mistake, this will be V0 by VGS, right? This will be V0 by VGS. Please note that this will be V0 by VGS. So it will be minus GM RL dash. Now mostly your RS value is much smaller than your RG value, so your VGS and Vin is more or less equal. Okay, because the resistance which is in series with the voltage source are generally not that high. However, if you want to make it even more accurate, just replace the value of VGS over here or in here, then you will find V0 by Vin. So you have the value minus GM into RL dash. Okay, now this is after removing the capacitances. Now let us consider the capacitance which is sitting in between input and output, and we are having a situation similar to this. This is your capacitance sitting between input and output, right? So you can split this capacitance in the input side and the output side applying Miller's theorem. Now what Miller's theorem say? In the input side it will be 1 plus A into the impedance. So similarly here, if you see, this is your CGD and this is the current, the source that is connected to this, which is AVVGS. Okay, so you can consider it a current source, and you have RL dash over here, right? So your CGD in the input side will be 1 plus GM RL dash, which is the gain, into CGD. So I already have said, for RS to be much smaller than RG, if you consider RS dash to be very small compared to RG, then you have the gain which is similar to minus GM into RL dash, because in this case this value, if you see, if this is very small, this can be neglected, this will cancel out and your VGS is your Vin. So that is what we have applied here. So your capacitance in the input side will be 1 plus GM RL dash CGD. So now put those capacitances in the circuit again. So you have CGS. If you look at the circuit, you have CGS. Now this capacitance will appear in parallel to CGS. A component of this will appear in parallel to CGS in the input side. So this is the capacitance corresponds to CGD in the input side, and in the output side the value was A by 1 plus A into impedance. So for higher A, this is more or less Z, because you can neglect 1, this 2 will cancel out, so this is more or less Z. So a CGD capacitance will appear in the output side as well, right? Now what is your Zin? Zin means the input impedance, and input impedance you look from this side, right? You don't consider the Vin is external. So when you look at the when you calculate the input impedance, you look from here. So your Zin will be Rg parallel this and this. So this both in parallel, we considered it as C equivalent, and C equivalent is CGS plus, because both of them are in parallel, so plus 1 plus GMRL dash into CGD. And what is your VGS? This value VGS will be again voltage divider, Zin divided by Zin plus RS dash into Vin, right? So your V0 will be, now you have CGD in the output side, so your V0 will be GM VGS into Z0. Z0 is nothing but the parallel combination of these two. Now you solve, you put the VGS value over here, replace Zin, put all the values, replace the value of Zin, and you will find that your V0 by Vin will be something like this, where AV dash 0 is minus GM by RL. Okay, this is your AV dash 0. So once I put the AV dash 0 over here, we get an expression like this. So what is this value? This is actually this value we are getting after replacing the corresponding terms. So you do it, you'll find it comes something like this. I'm not doing the whole calculation because it will take a lot of time. You can check it out. It's very simple. Replace these Zin values, then C equivalent values. In fact, I kept C equivalent values, so you replace this later. You can directly use C equivalent values, and then you'll find something like this. Now, if you look at the AVS value, which is V0 by Vin, just now that we have calculated, you have one S term over here, one S term over here. So how many poles do you have? 2 poles, which is very evident from the circuit itself. If you see, there is one time constant associated with this capacitances in parallel and one time constant associated with this. So 2 time constants, 2 poles, and you got in the equation also there are 2 possible poles. Now just doing some algebra, put this Rg in the denominator and you will find that this particular term becomes 1 plus Rs dash into Rg, and then Rs dash Rg C equivalent into S divided by Rg, that will cancel out Rg, it will come as Rs dash C equivalent into S. Okay, now take RL dash CGD in common from this, so it will be S plus 1 by RL dash CGD, and take Rs dash C equivalent common from this, and it will be Rs dash C equivalent S plus 1 plus Rs dash divided by Rg, that means this term divided by Rs dash C equivalent. So further, if you simplify, your AV dash 0, you have RL dash CGD, you have Rs dash CEQ, and then you have S plus 1 divided by RL CGD over here, and this term over here. Now if you see this part, this is nothing but a parallel combination. What is a parallel combination? R1 R2 divided by R1 plus R2, if R1 and R2 are in parallel. So the same thing can be written as Rg parallel Rs dash, because this is Rg, this is Rs dash, so your Rg is parallel Rs dash. So we just replace the same parallel combination over here, and this you can consider Rin dash, because Rg and Rs dash both are in input side, right? So you can replace this as Rin dash. Now this particular expression is your high frequency gain, that is you are considering from mid band to higher side. Okay, and this AV dash 0, as I have told, this is nothing but this part, the gain in the mid-band frequency range. Okay, so this is the expression of AVS. Now just consider, this is the expression that we received in the last slide. So if you consider this part as omega 1 and this part as omega 0, this RL dash CGD is omega 1, R in dash CEQ is omega 0, then it will come AV dash 0, which is omega 0 omega 1 by S plus omega 0 into S plus omega 1. Take omega 0 and omega 1 out from these terms and you will find S by omega 0 plus 1, S by omega 1 plus 1, and this omega 0 omega 1 term will get cancelled out from numerator and denominator. So this is the expression, simplified expression, from where you can say that you have two poles, omega 0 and omega 1, which is associated with, if you make it 0, you will find it is not omega 0 omega 1, but S will be something like minus omega 0 or minus omega 1, whichever is the value. Then you will find these two poles are associated with the circuit that we have seen. Now these two poles, any one of them can be dominating, right? Any one of them can be dominant in this case. And what decides which pole is dominant? Whichever is appear early is dominant. Why it is dominant? Because from that point only your gain will start decreasing. So say if this is omega 1, so from this point only it will start decreasing, and then if you get omega 2, there will be another 20 dB, minus 20 dB decrease. So this will be minus 20 dB, and then at omega 2 or omega 0, whatever is this, minus 40 dB. So in this case your omega 1 will become the dominant pole. Now which one will be dominant, it depends on this RL dash CGD value or R in dash CEQ value. You choose those values wisely to make any one of them as dominant pole. Okay. Now there is a term called zeta, you'll find in books, which considers all the capacitances associated with the circuit. So this is the expression, it considers the capacitances associated with this. So why I am showing this one? Because I will use the zeta value later in my expressions. So just remember that zeta is a parameter which considers all the capacitances associated with this. So what are the capacitance? You have three capacitance: gate source, gate drain, and this is dB, that is drain bulb. Okay, so these capacitances will appear in your circuit one after another. One after another means whenever you will find that there is some capacitance, you will see this effect. Okay, it may happen all of them are not significantly affecting your circuit, but it will appear in some of these combinations and some other can be neglected. That's why this zeta term is important. And in the denominator I already have shown you that you have WP1 and WP2. So this is a two order term which will have two poles. So that I already have discussed. Now if you see that there is no zero term in this particular expression, only pole, right? There is no zero term. Does that mean there is no zero? I already said that if there is two signals out of phase meeting at the output, they will cancel each other and will create a zero. Zero means your V0 will be 0. And here also in the circuit you have two paths, but there is no zero term appearing. So you have CGD over here, this is also acting as a path, and then you have this current which is basically through GS, gate source, gate source junction, but there is no 0 over here. And what is the reason? One of the reason is you applied Miller theorem in the middle in order to split the impedance between input and output. And when you apply Miller's theorem, it only considers feedback. It doesn't consider the feed forward path. And if you don't consider feed forward path, if you remember the circuit that I've shown, the 0 will appear for the feed forward. The feed forward current that is going to V0 and the other signal that is going to V0 will cancel each other. So because of that, the 0 term did not appear. Now let us see what is the 0 term associated with CGD. This is one of the drawback of Miller's theorem. So Miller's theorem actually assumes that your 0 will be far away from your poles. That means, say if your poles are appearing in here, omega 1, omega 0, whatever, your 0 will appear somewhere here. So definitely this 0 is not going to have any effect on these poles, because your pole already have reduced the gain. Now even if the 0 appears here, by that time your pole is minus 40 dB per decade. Your pole is reducing by minus 40 dB per decade. So this is what Miller's theorem assumes. But this might not be correct. So let us see if we consider CGD and just apply normal Kirchhoff law and figure out what is the ABS. So if we consider G and D nodes, so in here I have also considered CDB. Okay. So you have G and D nodes, and in those nodes the current equation will be VGS minus V in RS dash. So a current, if you consider this node, a current will be from this branch, and in this case we consider RG to be very high compared to RS dash, so we are ignoring this RG. Another current will be for CGS, and which is VGS into CGS dot S. I already have said why this is this, because this is the impedance part, right? What is the impedance associated with this? 1 by J omega C. So what is your voltage? V equal to IR. So your I will be V by R or V by Z, say. So your Z is 1 by J omega C. If it is V divided by 1 by J omega C, your J omega C term will be multiplied with V. So this is exactly what happened. VGS into CGS dot S. S here is J omega. Then you have another through GD, CGD. So this is VGS, here VGS, minus V0, here it is V0, into the impedance associated with CGD, which is CGDA into S, right? Now in D node, say in D node, also you will have the same thing. So in D node, you have V0 minus VGS. For this CGD, again you have V0 minus VGS, which is here, into CGD into S is the current, the first current. The second one is GM VGS, this current source, and the third one is the combination of this, which is flowing through this combination. So it is 1 by RL dash plus CDB into S into V0, right? Because the other part is ground. So consider these two equations, equation 1 and equation 2. Now from equation 2, you will get the value of VGS, which is something like this, and replace this VGS value into the equation 1. You got this value in from equation 2 and replace now this value in equation 1. You do this calculation, it's little lengthy calculation, but if you do it, you will get AVS, which is V0S by V in S, and this is the expression for the same. Now if you look at this numerator part, you have CGS into S minus GM into RL dash. If you consider this equal to 0, you will get your omega Z1 value is GM divided by CGD. So you have a 0 at GM divided by CGD that you did not get in the previous case because you applied Miller's theorem. So this is one of the drawback of Miller's theorem. However, if you see the typical value of CGD, which will be say 10 to the power minus 12, of the order of 10 to the power minus 12, GM is 10 to the power minus 3, so the resultant is 10 to the power plus 9. Okay, and you have a 2 pi factor over here, so your F will be of the order of 10 to the power 9 divided by 2 pi. So this will roughly give you something of the order of 10 to the power 8. However, the 10 to the power 8 means 10 to the power 8 hertz. So it is few hundred of megahertz, almost close to a gigahertz, right? However, your poles will appear, if you calculate with a typical value, it will appear somewhere around in hertz. Okay, somewhere about around say 1-2 megahertz maximum, even if you consider different values. So this is in practical case, this is in 100 of megahertz, which is far away from your pole. So what assumption Miller's theorem is actually considering is true. So using Miller's theorem is not that bad, but you can't use Miller's theorem everywhere. Then you may lose a vital information regarding zero. Now, if you see, you have a WZ1 which is equal to GM CGD. CGD is fixed. It is a device parameter, the gate drain voltage. But if you can attach an parallel capacitance across this, you actually can tune the zero value using that external capacitance, right? And it may happen, if this is your omega 1, omega 0, you have, with a proper parallel capacitance, you forced your 0 to come before say omega 1, or say just at omega 1 value. Then you can increase your bandwidth. It will go up to omega 0, right? If you remember the plot. So this is possible with a parallel capacitance. So it is important to know where your zero value is, and that is how you can also control the bandwidth or frequency terms just by using a capacitance value or whatever component you want to put. However, in the denominator side, you will find this is a quadratic equation. So this quadratic equation will give you again two values of S1 and S2, right? So you will have again W1, omega 1 and omega 2, two frequencies as pole. So this is the expression for the pole, right? So for pole calculation, using Miller's theorem is the easiest one. You can see that it is very complicated in here. You can once calculate the whole thing by your own and check if this is okay. And you will find a quadratic equation in the denominator, and which will give you two poles, which we also have seen in case of previous calculations. Okay, so this is all about the poles and zero associated with the amplifier circuit. However, you just to give you an idea, you may come up with a situation wherein you have an expression where S plus omega 1 whole square or S plus omega 1 whole cube. This means at omega 1 point you are creating three poles. Say these are coming in the denominator. So at omega 1 point you are having three poles. In this case, 1 0 may not compensate all of them. So you need more zeros in order to compensate. However, these expressions are not very uncommon in case of filters, because three poles means first one is minus 20, second one will make it minus 40, third one will make it minus 60. So you will have a very sharp cutoff, which was previously like this. Now it will be a sharp cutoff. So you will find these type of expressions are appearing in case of filters. It may also appear in case of other circuits as well. In this case, to compensate this, you need two zeros in the same point, which is difficult. However, you can, if you know where your zero is, you can shift it using some external capacitance values, and this may become useful in your circuit design.